Members of the J area, what's going on? My name is Ramos Jr. and I just finished watching NXT Vengeance Day. What a show, per usual, that Shawn Michaels and the crew put on for NXT. It was a great culmination of several storylines that have been being told on NXT TV, as well as a way to highlight the young and up and coming stars of the future. Now, we talk about NXT, and it's very difficult to not associate it with it the heavy level of talent that is found in the women's division. Let's talk about first the women's division. Obviously, the main event, fatal four-way action for the NXT Women's Championship, saw Giulia, the Beautiful Madness, successfully defeat Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez, as well as Bayley, one of the OGs for NXT. It's exactly what you would expect. High octane offense, a great showcase for each woman, was a way to honor the early years of NXT, that middle ground of 2.0, and of course moving forward. Giulia successfully retains. We now look at where each individual will fall in for the rest of the year. Bayley, of course, a member of the Monday Night Raw roster, so where will she end up? We know she has a matchup in the Elimination Chamber to determine whether or not she has a guaranteed championship match at WrestleMania. Cora Jade, kind of caught in the middle here, not quite ready for the main roster, maybe, and still with NXT, but again, hasn't really won any championship gold there. So what are we going to do moving forward with Cora Jade? Then we have Roxanne Perez, the Prodigy, breaking the record for the longest, participating match in the Royal Rumble, at least for the women's, that is. So it looks like she may be getting called up, as she has a qualifying matchup to see if she can enter that very same Elimination Chamber that Bayley will be in. And of course, Giulia, the NXT Women's Champion, spearheading the new era of NXT, the CW era of NXT. And she certainly isn't alone, because her friend, Stephanie Vaquer, had successfully won the NXT North American Women's Championship, defeating Fallon Henley, who, by all intents and purposes, was a decent champion, but I think she served as that buffer champion, that in-between, almost a transitional champion, if you will. We knew Kaylani Jordynne as the inaugural North American champion. Now we have someone of the caliber of a Stephanie Vaquer, but you had Fallon Henley in between. Again, serviceable, great work as a character, solid on the mic, and continuing to improve alongside her members in Fatal Influence. But I gotta tell you, when it comes to Stephanie and Giulia, we knew when these two arrived in NXT that it was going to be a game changer. The division itself has already been highlighted as one of the best women's divisions in all of professional wrestling. But with those two at the helm and at the tippy top of that division, I mean, hey, what more could you expect? Stephanie and Giulia, a great showing. For those who aren't familiar with their work, check out NXT. And if you did check out NXT, man, you already know what I'm talking about. But that wasn't the only big surprise coming out of Vengeance Day. We saw the official debut / return of the Juggernaut. Jordynne Grace, former TNA Knockout Women's Champion, makes her appearance here. We knew that her time at TNA was limited. Her time at TNA came to a close. The contract was ending, and now she is a part of WWE. So the question was she going to jump right to the main roster? Or was she going to, have a little stint in NXT? I, for one, was very confident that we were going to see her in NXT because of that establishment. You see, we already knew her from NXT. We obviously knew she was in TNA, of course. But because of the appearances, against the match, against Roxanne Perez last summer, as well as that appearance in the 10-women tag, we already have a sense of familiarity with Jordynne Grace. So in terms of continuity, it just made all the sense in the world to have her start off in NXT. I think likely we're going to see her face off against Giulia, someone the size, the caliber of a Jordynne Grace. Doesn't necessarily have to face Stephanie for the North American Women's Championship. I think we're going to see her just jump all the way to the top, cut the line because of the star that she is, and face Giulia for that title. But that is for another day. I mean, I got to tell you, when the way that match had ended, the Fatal 4-Way, obviously, it wasn't in doubt that Giulia was going to win. Just won the championship at NXT New Year's Eve earlier this year, so I didn't believe there was any shot that she was going to lose this matchup. So when we saw her win, and then we had the emergence of Stephanie Vaquer, I'm assuming, okay, we're going to close out the show, have the two top faces of the women's division close out the show, and give us a preview of what to expect for the future. But then, of course, the sirens are blaring throughout the arena in Washington, D.C., and we knew that it wasn't Scott Steiner, but it was Jordynne Grace. So moving forward, the women's division continues to get stacked. I do think that someone like Roxanne Perez more likely will be heading up to the main roster. So although we're losing one in the division, with the addition of Jordynne Grace, it's a perfect way to fit in another, piece into that already stacked division. The women's division, probably the best part of NXT. Solid matches as the opener and the main event were the ones to feature that division. But of course, that wasn't the only championship that was on the line. We know that Obafemi had quite his hands full with the triple threat match against A-Town Down Under, Grayson Waller, and Austin Theory, defending his NXT championship. Of course, he also had recently won that championship at NXT New Year's Evil, and very much so, like Giulia, there was no doubt in my mind he was going to win this matchup. I don't see Waller or Theory winning the championship, especially because they're already on Monday Night Raw. They don't need the title. It was just a solid way to give Obafemi something to do in the meanwhile before we get to Stand and Deliver. I also think it was a good vehicle to reintroduce the idea of breaking up Waller and Theory. I've been saying this for months. It feels like a full year. You look back all the way to last year's Elimination Chamber in Australia, where they kind of introduced the idea of these two not getting along, maybe the early stages of them breaking up. Ultimately, that wouldn't happen. They'd win the tag team championships at WrestleMania, go on to have pretty much, a forgettable title reign as the tag team champions. But I do think this matchup here served for two purposes, right? One, obviously to showcase Obafemi, just to demonstrate the dominant force that he is. And he is a dominant force. Someone at his young age with the experience level that he has so far has so much potential. I mean, this guy's a future superstar in the making. Can't wait to see him on the main roster. But we want to enjoy his run here in NXT as he mows down a lot of the people that are being lined up in his path. A-Town Down Under, as I mentioned, it was a great opportunity to reintroduce the idea of them breaking up. I'm of the mindset, but we got to break them up. I think we've already exhausted as much as we could of this storyline, right? A-Town Down Under, good heel act, knew how to get under people's skin, very athletic, very capable for what their role was. Grayson Waller should not turn babyface. I look at him like The Miz, a natural heel. He gets it. Great look, great move set, great on the mic. Austin Theory, turning babyface, right? We need something fresh, a new take on Austin Theory. He was good as a heel. Don't get me wrong. Those early days with the cell phone and the selfies, it worked. It worked for him. I was a fan of him when he was in the way with Johnny Gargano, Candice LeRae, Indy Hartwell. That was cool as well. But I want to see something fresh, something new. Austin Theory has the moveset of a babyface. The way he moves in the ring, man, otherworldly. I'm a fan of his. If you've seen his work with like Make-A-Wish and the way he is with the members of the audience and the fans outside of his character, I think it could work as a babyface. I would like to see him versus Grayson Waller one-on-one, whether it's at WrestleMania. Probably not, but nonetheless, I think it's time to pull the trigger. And this was a perfect opportunity to reevaluate, reassess, and see where we're at in terms of the saga of will they, won't they in A-Town Down Under. We talk about tag teams. Hey, Fraxium, arguably the tag team of the year for 2024, successfully defends the tag team championships. What more could you expect? But again, they go ahead and they deliver another solid outing against Josh Briggs and Inamura. I for one, personally, wasn't really looking forward to this matchup. Not to say it was going to be bad or anything. It just wasn't on my radar. I was like, okay, another tag team matchup. Fraxium, they're really good. But I was left with question marks in terms of the challengers. But the way these four men came together and delivered just an exceptional matchup, really. The tag team division in NXT, I think, has been a sore spot for the longest, but slowly we're beginning to rebuild. We're getting quality matchups. Look no further than that triple threat match we had on NXT on the Go Home episode before Vengeance Day. It's just a lack of names, I think, really. The talent's there. The recognition is going to come. It's just going to take a little bit of time. But Fraxium, wins, they retain. It's the right call. I don't think it's time to drop these titles yet. I can't wait to see what they're going to do with them next, because the one similarity between Obafemi and Fraxium, other than being champions, right? Other than being champions, they both suffered some attacks from this mysterious faction that just debuted. Now, we don't know anything about these men. We've only seen the vignettes and the promo packages leading up to the event. They made 2 appearances, making quite the statement, by the way. Because if you want to make a statement, you go to the top, you go to the champions, and what they do, they attack the best tag team in the WWE, not just in NXT, but in the WWE. And they go after one of the most dominant forces in NXT history, in Obafemi. Now, if you want to make an impact, that's the way to do it. The 4 men in question all were covered, with masks. We didn't get to see them, although one of them I'm fairly certain is Dion Lennox, because he just looks like him. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of explanation as to why he has sided with these other men. We don't have a name for them. We don't have any type of motive. We just know that these 4 men want to take over NXT. I love a good takeover angle. I love to see factions get together, especially with a purpose. So you better believe I'm going to be interested into this storyline. Hopefully it's not another case of retribution, because that one in itself was not it. But we're going to see on NXT, what are we going to do next? I need a name. I need a motive. What's going on here? Do we have a leader? Are there no leaders? What is the type of, what's the model here? What's the model here? All equals, one leader? Is there a big man in the chair controlling the destiny of these 4 men? I don't know. Something we got to wait for on NXT. But another surprise, right, other than the big attack there, Eddie Thorpe defeats Trick Williams in a strap match. I did not see that coming. I'm thinking Trick Williams is getting, prepared to get another opportunity at Obafemi, having this one-off feud with Eddie Thorpe. But no, they actually have Eddie Thorpe go over, defeating a former 2-time NXT champion. Huge in terms of credibility. This guy gets a win over a 2-time champion. That does wonders for a guy like Eddie Thorpe, who's been caught in the middle. I personally like what they've been doing with Eddie Thorpe. He was kind of lost in the shuffle there as a babyface, but we added a little bit of an edge whenever he made that accusation that he was attacked before the Iron Survivor matchup, although he wasn't. He feigned an injury, got easy access to a championship matchup, a little bit of an edge. I like that. I like to see some advancement in the story. And I don't think we're done here between Trick and Eddie Thorpe. Not by a long shot. Does it lead to a championship matchup with Obafemi one-on-one? Maybe. But I don't think we're done between he and Trick Williams. Trick Williams, of course, arguably the babyface of NXT right now. Since, separating himself from Carmelo Hayes, Trick Williams has managed to carve out his own spot here in the roster. We look forward to seeing him move up to the main roster, and I think that happens this year. Whether it's after WrestleMania, or maybe in the fall, Trick Williams will be on the main roster fairly soon. Other than that, Ethan Page as well had a good showing against Javon Evans, a matchup that I was looking forward to because of the redemption arc that we were trying to follow for Javon Evans, as well as the bad blood between the two. I love the moveset of Javon Evans. I think he's going to be great for the future of NXT. Certainly a future champion. And Ethan Page, like I said, a throwback, right? That classic heel, no nonsense, even though he's all ego, had all the edge here against Javon Evans. He's a veteran. Javon Evans, the story of this matchup really was that sense of aggression and the lack of discipline. There's a young gun here who has a lot to learn. And Ethan Page managed to eke out that victory, defeating Javon Evans. Is this matchup over? Is this rivalry over? I also doubt it. I don't think we're over here. But Ethan Page may throw his name in the hat for a championship opportunity as well. We're starting to build up that men's division. I keep talking about how the men's division might be lacking a little bit of variety, lacking a little competition, but we're starting little by little to introduce more stars, more credibility, and provide more parity in the men's division. And that's huge. That's something we definitely need to see. Speaking of needing to see, how about that appearance by Santino Marella, right? The authority figure from TNA Wrestling making an appearance on NXT. Dude, this screams out the possibility of Worlds Collide. Now, I don't know if that's going to be the exact title, but I'm thinking maybe we have a talent exchange. Maybe we have some sort of a show where it's the best of TNA versus the best of NXT. I think that's certainly in the cards. And I think it's great to see Ariana Grace alongside her father, in real life at least, a part of the show. Just a nice little treat for the fans that know. But TNA wrestling has been on fire within the last year. To see their inclusion with NXT, very much fascinated to see that. Will it, culminate in a one night affair where it's TNA versus NXT? Maybe an interpromotional matchup at Stand and Deliver where we get one representative from TNA, one representative from NXT to duke it out for some sort of incentive. Don't know. Don't know what they have in store for us. But what I do know is I enjoyed NXT Vengeance Day. I want to hear from you guys in the comments. What were your thoughts and opinions on Vengeance Day? Comment down below and share those with the J area. If you enjoyed this quick reaction to the pay-per-view or PLE, depending what you call it, give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you're ever so bold, check out the Main Event Mafia, where you can join and get exclusive content that not everybody else is going to have access to. Of course, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. Thank you again for joining us in today's video, and I'll be seeing you all later today.